SCCA's National Championship Runoffs has long been a launching pad to professional careers for some, an annual pilgrimage for many, and a bucket list event just to compete in for all. This weekend, it is also a test extraordinaire, as for the contenders, Sonoma Raceway awaits. As it is known to do, the Bay Area marine layer that you can see in the background, those clouds that have lingered all morning, have lifted rather suddenly. It is now a sunny Sonoma Raceway that we welcome you to as we are set to determine our national championship in the SCCA's Runoffs for its 55th running in Super Touring Lite. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Creamer, joined by two-time World Challenge Touring Car Champion here in the booth, Tom O'Gorman. And, of course, down in pit lane, as always, we are going to have Hayward Wagner covering all the action. This is a big development as we take a look at some of the cars that are going to be going out, because when that marine layer lifts here, it's kept it in the low to mid-50s. We're expecting a high pushing 80 today. If it jumps suddenly in this race, could make it interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, Greg. And that is definitely the development. This heat hits fast when that fog layer clears. These cars are definitely going to. This is the conditions these guys expected to see. So we were kind of surprised. As long as that fog had lingered all morning, it stayed cool. I think the heat's going to hit really quickly right now.
And if it does, obviously, that's going to change. If they were thinking it's going to be around for a little bit, tire pressures on those cars, everything's going to change. Super Touring Lite. Tell us a little bit about this class.
Yeah, it's a really cool class. One of the newest classes in SCCA club racing, and it's built around lightly modified production vehicles, and it's balanced by power to weight. So it's mostly bolt-ons. You're looking at the Pulsar there, Danny Staines, MX-5, and a couple of MX-5s there. The story in the past couple of years has been Honda versus Mazda. We have a big smattering of choices, powertrains. They do allow engine swaps, and then, as I said, all of it balanced with power to weight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. These guys usually put on a great show. That has always been the case here. And you talked about Danny Stain as we had that quick shot of him down in the pre-grid. On the pole here, a big opportunity for him at this point. And down with the entire field is Hayward Wagner. What are you hearing?
Guys, Danny firing the engine up on his MX-5. I got a chance to chat with him just before he jumped in the car. I asked him what the fun part of this was for him. Does he have fun when the green flag flies? Is he one of those guys who isn't really having fun until he gets to the checkered flag? Danny said that his fun for this is the dicing. He loves to mix it up. It doesn't matter if it's for first, second, third, or last. He just wants to be on the track racing. And how much does this guy love racing? In the last 10 years, almost 300 starts, and 100 of those have been wins. So Danny is definitely one of the ones to watch here. Another storyline, Danny likes the A compound tire. He likes the softer tire. The two guys behind him both prefer the R tires. Everybody right now is on their favorite tire, not because of temperature, not because of conditions, because of how they like to drive the cars. Tom was also talking about the difference between these cars. One other big one, these Mazdas up front, because they have the larger motor, have to carry a lot of ballast. And talking to the crew chief for Danny, Tom Fowler, he was telling me that they've got about 225 pounds of ballast in this car, and they're putting it literally everywhere they can think of. It goes under the driver in the passenger seat. It goes in the trunk to bring that car up to weight so they have the balance and performance they're looking for.
All right, thanks very much, Hayward. And sometimes that ballast isn't necessarily a negative. If you can put it in the right spot to balance the car out a little bit, it can sometimes help even.
Yeah, absolutely. You can expect them to be creative, especially out of the OPM tent for Danny Staines' car. You can balance the car, you say an MX-5's 50-50. You can keep it that way even though you're throwing weight at it.
Absolutely. And, yeah, talking about the Danny, the dicing it up, we have seen him. He is aggressive. He has no qualms about throwing it in there and mixing it up.
Spoken like a true Spec Miata racer, but he had the class covered pretty comfortably in qualifying, almost a full second gap between Danny Stain on the top spot and then Craig McAfee in a very similar Mazda MX-5, also out of a very experienced camp. That's a flat-out motorsports car. The two MX-5s on the front row, the past winners for the past couple of years and really the past top contenders have all been Hondas. We've seen a big swing this year at Sonoma Raceway to the Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, Cliff Irick will start third in his number 36. Ira Motorsports, Acura Integra won here the last time we were on the West Coast at Laguna, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Bit of a rarity here in this category. We've talked about local knowledge, really being a huge key here. The top three cars in this grid, they're travelers, they're wanderers, and it's going to be interesting to see if the locals, starting with Tim Auger in fourth, is going to be able to come come up through the pack? We'll find out when we come back to Sonoma Raceway for our coverage continued, and happily so, by Mazda.
Both his and Craig McCaffrey's have shown to be very strong at a number of tracks around the country. And Mike, we first saw Denny Staines this year and in New Orleans at no he walked almost the entire field and actually ran out the STL field there and was just head and shoulders above. And of course, you notice.
Pace lap underway for our Super Touring Light competitors, led around by a beautiful car built by Trans Am Worldwide. It is the Trans Am 455 Super Duty, and it only has a cool 1,000 horsepower in it, and it has been spectacular to watch and enjoy. It's the official pace car of the 2018 Runoffs, and he is leading around the field. Who, at the front of that field, is leading around the team? It is Danny Stain. Once again, the Ocean Machinery, OPM, Nelson, G-Lock, Mazda MX-5. And Danny is looking forward to this one, no question. He is our Tire Rack Pole Award winner for the STL category. And we were talking a little bit about STL, but the light part has, it's a direct relation to the displacement of these cars, right?
Yeah, we've talked about how these cars are balanced with power to weight. Everything in the field is 2 liters and under, everything naturally aspirated, but they do allow engine swaps within the manufacturer. So we're going to talk more about both of those MX-5s on screen there running their factory 2-liter engines. The Integra you see in the background there of Cliff Ira, that's actually got a 1.8 liter swapped into it. The car behind that, another 1.8 liter, so they can mix and match within their manufacturer. Lots of high Honda, lots of Mazda. Mazda comeback this year after Honda dominating them for a couple years. And then that lone Toyota Celica there. Cool story about that car that we'll get to. But definitely mostly front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive battles. We will talk and see how this unfolds.
Absolutely. We have Ken Kennard, who spent a lot of years racing Nissan Datsuns in production racing, has moved over. It's a class that is attracting some people to make the switch or run it as an additional class, and it's made it awfully exciting. Lights out on the safety car, so we are going to be going green 20 laps every race here at this 2018 55th running of SCCA's National Championship Runoffs. Great to have our coverage presented by Mazda, and it is about to get real here in STL. Pace car makes the move off. That front row, Danny really laying back from that pace car a little bit. Wanted to make sure that everybody was woed up before it goes green. Has chosen the inside. Seems to be the better spot. And the green flag flies. And it is a good run from the outside, though, by McAfee. See if he's able to make something work. They're side by side. Stain and McAfee, almost a touch, maybe a touch. And at that point, Danny was able to dissuade him. McAfee just checked up a little bit, slots into second, and that red number 68, Ira, hanging on to his third qualifying spot behind him.
Yeah, strong start, too, for Ken Kennard up into the fourth spot. Tim Augers, the local of the area, not a good start for him in the green front end of that Acura Integra. He's side by side up into the dirt a little bit. Ooh, a little touch and turned.
That's Tom Lepper. Got into it, one of the local drivers, and Lepper hard into the wall as a result of that contact. Now, it'll be interesting to see. He did hit it somewhat flush. We'll have to see if he was able to get away with it or not. But he'd made a pretty good start as well. He qualified up in the sixth spot, a local driver from Benicia, California, with a ton of experience at this track. But it all went wrong there. Meanwhile, you can see Stain has opened up a margin over McAfee, but this battle for third between Ira, as you pointed out, a fast starting Ken Kennard, a good one.
Yeah, Ken Kennard's going to be the heavier car here. That's probably a 1.8 liter in that Miata, so he's not quite as heavy as the cars at the front, but it's been Cliff Ira holding down the front-wheel drive Honda camp. Interestingly, there's about 350 pounds difference between the front-running MX-5s. Here's a replay of it.
And it's just those two cars trying to occupy the same spot. I don't know that Lepper realized he was there.
I don't think so, yeah. Auger did nothing wrong, just kind of turned as Lepper tracked out. That's bare concrete there, so I don't think that car's going to make it into the race again.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but boy, I'll tell you, making a race of it too is Ben Brandt, that white number 57 driver out of Pacifica, California. The James Ford Stage Ranch Racing Miata has joined this battle, and recovering Auger down to the inside and picking up a spot on one of those flat-out motorsports machines and going after Brandt on the exit. That was a great sequence for Auger.
Yeah, he's going to be in recovery mode after a slow start. We heard from Hayward Wagner that these guys towards the bottom end of the top five were choosing those R compound tires a little slower to wake up. The front-wheel drive cars are going to need to conserve those front tires. But what I was going to say earlier is the front-wheel drive cars are actually much lighter, about 350 pounds lighter in some cases than the front-running MX-5s. So you would expect over the race that the front-wheel drive cars are going to burn their tires more. It's actually the heavy MX-5s at the front of this race that tend to be the hardest on their tires, sometimes as heavy as 2,800 pounds for those MX-5s.
Yeah, that's a little bit different than the norm, certainly with a front drive car. And that second flat-out motorsports entry, the number 31 of Amy Mills from Bellevue, Washington, in the Mazda Miata. That's the blue one with the red or orange. There it is right there, having a very strong run as well. Qualified up in the top 10 in 8th spot. Seeing a little smoke out of the back of Brandt's car. At first I thought it was just body rub down on the tire, but it looks like it's coming from the center of the back of the car. That'll certainly have the corner workers, the corner marshals out there really eyeballing that car big time. Thought we might see a lunge from Auger, but he decided the better of it. He would have come from a bit too far back.
Yeah, thought about it.
Yeah.
And again, we've said these cars can have engine swaps. These are kind of cobbled together, sometimes not in a bad way, but just in a puzzle pieces kind of way. And that makes them high strung. You can massage the internals of the engine to be absolutely at factory spec. So there's some tinkering that goes on in this class. But Ken Kennard looking racy. Tim Auger still trying to make a comeback on Ben Brandt.
Oh, and he's going to sweep the outside, stick it down the inside into 10. And Brandt at that point went, yeah, I'm not going to turn in on that. That's going to be a big one. And Kennard looking again, thinking about something on Ira here. Couldn't quite get it done. But this little pack, an angry little pack of STL machines that are putting on a great show here third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, basically third to 10th.
Yeah, and then looking at the front, it is a check out for those two MX-5s at the front. Danny Stain, he's got 4 seconds over Craig McAfee, and Craig McAfee's not even in sight of these next guys. Almost 10 seconds gap runaways at the front for these MX-5s. Holy cow.
That's a huge margin. And obviously you were talking about the weight of those cars. Their plan must have been, they know they're fast, get a margin, so if the tires go off a little bit, you've got something to give back.
Yep, and Danny Stain on the Autocross compound, stickier compound tire. Craig McAfee opting for the harder compound tire. Hayward Wagner saying that's just personal preference, but you should expect that the McAfee car will have the longer term run. Now, the only real difference between those two cars is Danny's car going to be the 5-speed and Craig McAfee's car the 6-speed, so a little bit tighter gearing. It looks like Stain's car has the raw speed, but we'll see if McAfee can kind of maintain this. Still 18 laps to go.
Yeah, a lot of race left, certainly, and Kennard continuing to hound Ira, but more importantly for Kennard is Auger is absolutely filling his mirrors, and this is where he thought about coming from a long ways back last time. A little bit more circumspect this time too. And you see Ira about 6-7 feet off of the first apex curb in 7. And a lot of people might be thinking, wow, he missed that turn in. Not really, because a lot of times you want to run that big open arc because you could turn in and diamond the corner a bit and get into these S's a bit faster.
Yeah, those front wheel drive cars, you want to be straight off the corner, have as much forward momentum with those front wheels putting the power down. But look at that. Danny Stain, super clean, super tidy, and he is dominating this race so far. He actually had some struggles this week, both racing in Spec Miata earlier this weekend and in this car. Popped the motor in this car and also got collected in a crash and testing in his Spec Miata. So it's been kind of a trials week for the Florida driver, but he did have a game plan. They were actually going to put a new engine in the car for the race. They just had to go to it a little sooner. Little hand over hand, he's pushing hard.
Yeah, he is. And obviously this guy is immensely talented, a lot of success. As a matter of fact, that probably the second biggest race in the SCCA national calendar is the June sprints at Road America, and he won this class at that legendary event this year as well. Danny Stain, big lead right now over Craig McAfee, and sitting in third is Cliff Ira.
51 car right behind Auger. It looks like Auger has maybe a little bit more grunt.
Great battles all around the track. Here in our STL category, this was one. It was an intense one for the 7th spot. And the 61 of Trotter, who had qualified back in 12th and has been on a charge in his Honda Civic, just a little aggressive down to the inside, right at turn-in, and Amy Mills didn't know he was there. In the 31, bit of a touch.
Yeah, didn't quite have that one under control. That turn 1 section so bumpy. Morgan Trotter was on a great run, and he's held the position. So he's up from 12th. We'll take another look at this. Just kind of goes straight to the apex. Maybe overshot the corner a little bit. He didn't have the position, so Amy had every right to turn in there, and then just kind of an awkward moment between the two of them. They both resume. I expect both cars totally okay.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is a lot of stewards of pro racing, they talk about presenting, and if you're not fully presented along the inside, the corner's not yours, and he wasn't. So it's an unfortunate moment there, as you said. Looks like they were able to continue. This little battle's a good one. We saw Auger able to get back around the 51 of Kennard in that yellow car. But Kennard in no way, shape, or form is letting him go. As a matter of fact, he's starting to attack in his own right.
Yeah, this is the order they qualified in, so these cars looking like they are absolutely even, but very different cars. We have the first generation MX-5, or Miata, right in the yellow car there behind, and then the much older Integra in the front. Talked to Tim Auger a lot, and he actually said they believe that that is the winningest Integra in the world. They said lots of pro races won, lots of club races won in the IT levels, now in STL, even with Randy Pope's driving. So some pedigree with that car, and then Ken Kennard, lots of experience in these MX-5s, or in the Miatas, both in STL here and even in the production classes.
Well, that's a good point. You know, we've got a lot of classes in SCCA that, you know, from the 1950s. This one came into being in 2012.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons was there were a number of pro series that had cars that were in a certain performance envelope, and the club said, a lot of them said, we'd like to go club racing too, and especially, you know, when the pro guys moved to a different class or whatever, these cars were available, and it was a wise move by the Sports Car Club of America to create that opportunity, and it was immediately a well-subscribed class.
Absolutely. 2 feeder ways to get into this class. There's the ex-pro cars, and then there's definitely these cars that now have such a surplus of mix and match parts. We're talking the older Hondas, the older Miatas, and then this interesting story of the Toyota Celica we see on screen.
Yeah, if it looks a little familiar and you're wondering why, if you've watched the Toyota Long Beach Celebrity Race over the years, well, when they were running the Celicas, this was one of those cars. And the cool part of the story is the guy who's driving it is the instructor for the local division out here. He's sort of the region and divisional instructor. He was the chief instructor for all of the Toyota celebrity drivers that came through. They'd spent some time in his school, and so he's met a lot of famous people, and a lot of people have driven that car, and he's now enjoying it here in competition. So,
Yeah.
you know, talk about an interesting history.
James Bishop having a good race in his Celica.
Yeah.
He's in 9th where he qualified. There's been a lot of shuffling, though, around him. Morgan Trotter continuing to pick up spots. He's run up to 7th right now. In his Civic, some pedigree in the autocross world for that car, built up now into road racing. But Danny Stain, 8.3 seconds up on the field over Craig McAfee, who's also checked out from 3rd and the rest.
Yeah, I mean, he's just clocking it here. His best lap, Danny's a 1:49.7, and that's pretty impressive here. That is, how about this number? That's over 4 seconds faster than the track record that was set here in July of this year.
And that's one thing we've seen coming to the West Coast for the first time. You know, there are the locals who have the track down. This doesn't appear to be one of the classes that really has a local subscription. The top 3 cars from Florida, Massachusetts, and Kansas City, Missouri, and then finally that local driver Tim Auger. But when you have
held
this,
that track record, he set it in July. Yeah.
When you have this influx of national drivers coming for the national championships runoffs, you can definitely see those track records and pace of the track tumble.
And here's a look at the second place car, the 68 of Craig McAfee in his Mazda MX-5. And having a solid run. Obviously, he'd like to be a little bit closer to the front, but he's certainly got some margin back to the folks in 3rd. And he's given his flat-out machine a pretty good hustle here. Was 9th last year at Indianapolis, so he's got to be very pleased with how the performance is right now, sitting up in medal contention at this point.
Yeah, done a lot of work this year on that car, and he had a lot of work, a lot of help just this week from Mazda and Tom Long, getting set up work from Flat Out Motorsports, and then the coaching from Mazda and Tom Long. Mazda bringing a couple of their pro drivers out here to help the Mazda competitors all weekend at the National Championship runoff. So he's saying not much of a story for the weekend for him other than my will to beat Danny. So he's out there willing it hard.
Absolutely. And boy, that speaks highly of Mazda, doesn't it? That they bring in pro drivers at that level. And of course, Tom Long, all part of Long Road Motorsports, that did so much development work on the Mazda MX-5 series cars and the like over the years, to bring them in to help these Mazda drivers at this event. Pretty class act.
Speaking of Mazdas, these are Spec Miata drivers, I think all just prep like Spec Miatas. Running towards the back of this field, the Spec Miata is not at the top of the prep level for STL, but it's a great way to get extra track time. We're looking at that's going to be Rose, Schubert, and Greg. And these guys are running close like Spec Miatas do.
Absolutely, and it's an opportunity to be able to come out, even though you may not be competing for a medal. You can go to an SCCA event and run a couple of classes, and obviously, anytime you're driving a Mazda Miata, you're going to have fun, and that's fun with cars. That's what this is all about, and these guys enjoying that. And it gives you extra track time on a weekend too.
Or you could share your car with your crew chief. Let him go take it for a spin. I think that's what we're looking at in some of these cases.
Absolutely.
But when you come from the East Coast, you come from the middle of the country out to Sonoma Raceway, you want to get as many laps as possible. This track looks like so much fun to drive. Bumpy up through turn 1 into turn 2, 110 or so feet elevation change. You stand on the top of the grandstands, you look down at the start-finish line 11 stories below, and then you turn around, you look up into turn 1. Then you get here to turn 3, you climb even higher. You sit at the top of turn 3, you can see every inch of this facility. It totally makes sense why all of the big series come here every year. Big spectator track.
Yeah, that from turn 2 to 3, you talked about the 110. It's another 50 feet. You climb from 2 up to 3, and then you just fall down 4, down through the carousel, except for this little rise. That's one of the neat characteristics of this track. Every time you complete a corner, half the time you're cornering over a rise, so the car's weight transfer is totally unsprung at times, and you have to deal with that. And then you think, okay, I got through that, and you come around the corner, and there's another hill.
I should say that was the 11 car in the middle there, the red car. That was William Keeling, who qualified last place, 19th, and he is currently battling for 13th. So they're not just out there driving for extra laps because they're here in Spec Miatas. They're racing there, and he's on a good run.
He is, and of course, one of the awards that the club has at these races is the Sunoco Hard Charger Award. You got to think he would be a potential candidate for that award. There is the number 07 of Tim Auger. He would like to move up one more spot because he's currently 4th. He'd like to get into medal competition, but he's got to deal with Ken Kennard, that yellow machine right on his 6. We'll be right back. This tremendous battle for the 4th spot continues, but as you can see, there was a change, and another one might be unfolding. Kennard had snuck around on Auger. Now Auger down to the inside of turn 11, side by each on the exit. This is just going to be a drag race here up to turn number 1. Shorter line by a little bit by Kennard, but Auger staying right there, using the power of that Acura. Here we go. Now the climb up the hill, and just floating some speed. Is there going to be enough for Auger? He's there, but Kennard willing to try it around the outside of 2. They're still side by side. Absolutely fabulous racing, and you saw Kennard put his hand up, and I think he said, thanks, that was clean. That was a lot of fun. That was fantastic.
Yeah, Auger finally concedes, but local knowledge showing holding the outside in the quote-unquote lesser handling Acura Integra. But here was the pass for Kennard to get the position. Just a late move down into 7, gets the braking done, establishes his position, holds the inside, and then shuts the door on the exit. Kennard shuts the door. Auger trying to cut back across. Couldn't get it done.
Yeah, that was a nice aggressive move by Kennard to shut that door, but you could see Auger thought something might be happening. He was ready to try the counter move. Just some fabulous racing here. And again, Kennard able to hang on right now to that 4th spot. But wow, great fun.
Yeah, we talked about the MX-5s at the
Yeah.
front being heavy cars, but that yellow older Miata is going to be pretty much the same weight as that Acura Integra, and we're looking at, it looks like Ken Kennard has the pace right now. He's going to set his sights on Ira. That little battle between the two of them for that full lap distance definitely allowed Ira in the 36 car, a newer Integra, to kind of get away a little bit.
Meanwhile, up front, that's one of the downsides when you have a dominant car and you lead by a bunch, is you don't get a lot of airtime sometimes, because we're looking for the best battles on the track, but Danny Stain has put together an absolute great drive. And you almost wonder, if he hangs on to win this championship, will he be a little deflated in victory circle, for the simple reason that he said what he really enjoys is the dice.
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
hasn't had one.
He hasn't had one, no, but I think he'll be happy nonetheless. Sure. You know, he started racing motocross in South Africa in the 80s, had a bad crash, was in a coma actually in 1987, picked up auto racing in the U.S. in the late 2000s, and has been on a tear ever since. He races any weekend he can, mostly in Spec Miata, picked up this STL car, but look at this battle. The call it for 7th.
Yeah, 7th. It's Bishop over Trotter. Wagner, Young. Sounds like a law firm, doesn't it? These guys been absolutely superb. Beautiful move there by the 23 of Young.
Yeah, he's having a great run. That was the 10th place qualifier, and they're gonna, if they're battling for 7th, he's right in the hunt. That's a newer generation 2-liter Honda Civic, and they actually get to cut some weight out of the car for being front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive. That's how those 2-liter MX-5s end up so heavy. But this is definitely the torquiest of the Hondas that we'll see on track. But it's that Celica with the point right now. Morgan Trotter dropping back behind that car.
Well, Trotter, he had that huge charge up to the field, and you wonder if maybe he didn't take a little bit too much out of his tires. And Carl Young, by the way, that great drive, that's the second of the Tom Lepper and Associates car. The number 21 of Lepper himself, obviously, was shuffled off the track at the very beginning of the race. So at least one of those cars is still in the hunt. But boy, Bishop and Trotter having a good little dice here, as you said, for that 7th spot. Young and Wagner just kind of watching at this stage.
Yeah, Trotter putting it in deep into the carousel, seeing if he can make the outside stick. Oh, and then we've got Bishop in deep, trying to square off that corner. Now, looking over the history of the weekend, we're pretty late in the weekend here in STL, last day of racing, and we're talking front versus rear-wheel drive. A lot of the times, the front-wheel drive cars this weekend. Oh, Kennard maybe missing a shift.
Something happening there. It just looked like he went, when he came out of turn 11, it just laid down on him a little bit. Like you said, that could be a missed shift. You hope that's not indicative of a gearbox issue, but Auger coming from way back.
We've seen he's really confident on the brakes in that Acura Integra, pushes the Kennard car wide. There's a lot going on there. It's pretty easy to just miss the shift, but gonna give a nice, comfortable lead in this battle to Auger now.
Yep. He may have an issue with that gearbox. We'll see if he can find some pace and find a good drive around here. That's unfortunate because that battle was so strong.
So good, yeah. All these cars, they can swap motors, they can swap the transmission that goes with the motors, but they're all that old-fashioned 5-speed, 6-speed. These guys are wheeling the cars, no driver aids, mostly no ABS.
Getting word here that in those the Miatas, you have to get down to 2nd gear for turn 11 because it's so tight, and apparently that not real fond, those cars, of that 3rd to 2nd exchange.
They are not, or the 2 back up to 3.
The rotation there.
Look at that, leaving black strips.
Well, if he's got some sort of an issue, he's going to have to drive through it and throw the car around a little bit more, perhaps, in some of these tight corners to get it to rotate.
Absolutely. We'll go back to what I was saying about the surface here. It doesn't have a lot of grip to offer. It's a pretty polished online, and it's going to affect a front-wheel drive car before it affects a rear-wheel drive car. The balance of a rear-wheel drive car, front engine, is going to work better on a low-grip surface, and we've seen across all the races when you can compare a front versus rear-wheel drive battle, it's been going to the rear-wheel drive cars here at Sonoma Raceway, but these guys, all front-wheel drive, all having a great battle. Absolutely,
and you can see the number 23 of Young now has gone around and picked up that spot. He's past Trotter, so he currently sits now in the 8th spot. Trotter's not going to go quietly for sure, but it looks like Carl Young's got some speed. He's now going after Bishop. And that last time, not the time we just saw, but the previous one where Bishop went so wide into 7, he had to have overshot a little bit. You don't want to leave that kind of a door open.
Absolutely. He got away with one there, but you see that looks to be his style. He's a pretty late turn-in kind of driver, it looks like. Also using all of it out to the wall. I don't know that he meant to do that. Might have even lost track of the wheel, shooting back across the track.
Well, then that sudden a move back across. I'm sure he wanted to do something to dissuade Young, who was much tidier. Now Young looks to the inside.
Oh, good move.
Cleanly through. That was absolutely sweet. And again, Bishop, as you said, he likes wide entries, but when you've got somebody right behind you and you use that wide entry, you do leave that door open for attack.
Yeah, and that's putting Young up into the 7th spot from 10th.
A great charge through the field, and he quickly opens up a couple of car lengths, and Bishop now under attack from Trotter. Such is the nature of racing in STL. A lot of racing yet to go, so stay with us.
Bishop, Young, and Trotter now. They come through turn number 4.
In the battle for 7th and STL on the run to the gold in our coverage presented by Mazda, you blink, there's been a change of position somewhere, and Trotter now back around Bishop, who not that long ago was 7th. He's now 9th.
Yeah, lots of shuffling here for the back of the top 10, but it's looking like Bishop's not done. He's going to take a look back. Morgan Trotter deep into 11. We've seen this corner. It's easy to make a mistake. It's bumpy on the apex. It's wide on the entry, wide on the exit. Lots of races decided in that last corner, but the Celica all over the back of that early 90s Civic. Big old wing on the back of these cars. He's looking up the inside, pinched down to the wall. Can he make the move work? He just got passed by Young this way. He's going to take that learning experience, try to make it work, but no. Trotter holds the inside. He gets it done, though, around the outside of 2. The Celica up into 8th. Trotter still there, though, side by side down into 3.
Oh, this is fabulous racing here, and that time
Cuts
Bishop
across.
clouded that curb a little bit. Trotter used that momentum and just swung around the outside.
And that's opened the door for that 09 of Wagner to come back at the Celica. He's in that MX-5. Trotter running wide, bringing the dust back onto the track. Look how dirty the surface is there. Bishop with the run around the outside, coming down into the carousel. They're going to come in side by side. Trotter's been able to hold the outside through here the last couple of laps. He's clear if he can get down to the apex. Not clear anymore. Bishop's still on the inside.
Stows it up the inside. That's
super tight.
Another touch, and a big wiggle from Trotter. And now, as you said, here comes Wagner, and what a run. He's had Cameron Wagner and the Norcal Hobbies machine now coming up, trying to take advantage of that little bit of a moment. And again, close quarters racing, and down at the bottom of the carousel, as you're falling down, it's a little off camber, and the cars will just push. And if you're on it a little bit, suddenly you're like, oh no, boom, there's that little bit of contact. And that's obviously makes it exciting, though.
Absolutely, especially the front-wheel drive cars. You get just a little bit overcommitted, and they don't want to come back.
And Young, of course, has taken advantage of all of that in 7th now, and has moved that Tom Leppard Associates Honda Civic well clear of this bunch here. And you just get the feeling this isn't done just yet.
Keeping one eye on the timing screen. Still Danny Stain at the front, a dominant performance with 6 laps to go. He is leading by 14 seconds over Craig McAfee, and then it is Cliff Ira in the first front-wheel drive car, that Acura Integra, 37 seconds back from Danny Stain. What about that?
Yeah, that's just an immense clocking that Danny is putting on this field right now. And Auger is running a little quicker than Ira, so that may not be done. Trotter, who got passed, as we said, by Wagner, now trying to come back at Wagner in the 09, and Wagner shut that door. And it'll be interesting, as Wagner had been following that, he was watching what Trotter was doing up into turn 2, and he went, I'm not giving him that opening. I'm closing the door early. As we jump up front to give you another look here at Danny Stain, as we are going to be starting 5 laps. So we are 3/4 of a way through this one. There's your second place car of Craig McAfee. Again, he's the champion in the Northeastern Conference, so has had himself an absolutely great season. Denny Stain, by the way, Denny Stain, the Super Tour points champ, so he's had a tremendous year as well.
Absolutely dominant in every race they went to. I was lucky enough to share the track with him at one point. Got to stare at the back of that car for a long time at Watkins Glen. But here's the third place car. That's Cliff Ira, the first of the front wheel drive cars here. We've talked about how the balance of this track, low grip, seems to have been favoring the rear wheel drive cars. But also this is a fairly new class in the SCCA. You said it started in 2012.
Right.
And with that, every season kind of comes a fluctuation of kind of figuring out where these cars really belong. And in the past couple of years, it's been a Honda show. They're trying to figure out, slow those Hondas down just a little bit so that the MX-5 is competitive. And it's just a give and take here and there. The SCCA stewards and tech people collecting data at every single majors race, every single Super Tour race. And it seems to have definitely evened out. I would call it a pretty good balance right now. But we're seeing the combination of track, the combination of preparation, driving, and the way that sits right now with that, you want to call it balance of performance, the MX-5 is the strong package for sure.
It is, and Danny Stain can extract everything out of it. Right now, Auger is doing a bit of extracting as well. He's run a couple of laps here that have been quite a bit quicker than Ira, so this final medal position, third on the podium, not quite settled yet. It's just a matter of time versus distance at this stage. He's got to come up with about 3.5 seconds to catch Ira, and then he's still got to get around the guy.
Yeah, that's the easy part, right? Especially when you get to an experienced driver like Cliff Ira. I believe at least one past national championship in his closet. But talking a little more about these cars and this class, this is one of the newest classes, and it's in the super touring category, which is an awesome spot for kind of that tinkering. It's mostly centered around bolt-ons. It's not quite the tinkering class like a production or a GT car. So you're bolting on shocks. You're choosing your spring rates. You can choose totally open on the sway bars. You can build your own aero. You can bolt on your own aero. You can choose whatever engine package you want. Lots of options for brakes. So they're not very closed down as far as what you can choose from in selection, and it's really focused on these cars that are really supported by the aftermarket and lots of parts available. It creates this great racing, but it's also a bunch of cool cars.
It's a bunch of cool cars, but it creates great racing, but it's also got to create headaches then for the competition committee and the tech staff, because when you've got so many open parameters that you can do, balancing them to get everybody in a performance window, because you don't want somebody showing up with a car that's just going to be absolutely dominant and somebody else showing up in a car that's got no shot at it. So they're earning their keep, aren't they, in figuring out just how we balance these cars up.
Absolutely, and that's one of the cool parts about modern motorsports is you can plug a data collector into these cars. It tracks based on GPS, and it also tracks, you can see throttle input, brake input, cornering Gs. You can see exactly what that guy's doing. So they're not getting away with anything if they're trying to hold back. The steward goes, oh, no, you got more left here. But it's also great because they can go to somebody else and say, no, the guy's just beating you. And here's where you need to be faster, or here's where you can improve. And then if it really comes down to two guys getting everything out of the cars and one of them is just clearly faster, they can make a change either mid-season or for the following season. For example, the car that we're looking at here, Ira's car, has a little bit smaller restrictor than it did last year. It's making a little bit less power than it did last year, and that's just in the kind of constant pursuit of equality amongst performance, so it's all about the driver.
It is, and Ira doing a nice job. He's responded and turned a lap a little bit quicker. Whoops.
That's Bishop.
Bishop has had it off there.
Great battle we were watching, and it's ended in a spin for the Celica. Trotter looks like he was involved, and Wagner too, all of them kind of awkward positions, leaving the 3A area. Here it is.
Well, here's a look. That's second time now Trotter has tried a move that is not on, and it's knocked Bishop cattywampus. Nice save.
Yeah, the front-wheel drive car, you just put your foot down if you get sideways, but...
turn the wheels where you want to go. And
exactly,
give it a bit,
but yeah, not a strong move. He's looking to the inside as well here.
And not going to be able to do anything there. So this great battling continues here. Stain, McAfee, and Ira. And again, Auger on the move. Kennard rounding out the top 5. Danny Stain coming up on traffic, an opportunity for him to do what he loves most, dice a little bit, although it might just be slice here with the speed that he's got. Just an absolutely superb run. You see a nice point by there by the number 77 of Powell, beautiful, saying, yep, there's your window, go for it. He's coming up on Bishop. Bishop seeing the flags as well and just leaving that door open and not worrying about it at this stage. And Stain moves through the traffic. Bishop going to try and come through as well, as he's gone down a lap at this point.
Yeah, the 77 and 17 there in the back of the frame, that's for position.
Yeah.
But Danny Stain is in a position where he has this race completely under control. He's no longer the fastest car on track. He's not taking any risks. He's making sure that when he comes up on someone, they see him. He's not gonna throw away this championship. But he's pushing hard. Look at that, all the way out to the dirt still. He's a driver. He's going to keep wheeling this race until the very end.
We've been watching the times here between Ira and Auger. And Ira responded for one lap, but then Auger coming back and running about a half a second again quicker. That margin down to under 3 seconds now. But the problem is they're going to be coming around here, and they've only got 2 laps to go. So Auger needs to be finding a little bit more time than that to catch a very fast and really smart and experienced Cliff Ira.
Yeah.
I think, Cliff has realized I'm not going to be able to deal with Stain or McAfee, obviously, at this point. So manage the car, make sure you've got tire underneath you, and bring it home and at least get a medal.
Watching his lap times, he's just been clicking off super consistent times every single lap, not overusing the car. Look at that, barely touching the curbs, just being nice and clean. But there's the gap to 4th. That's Auger. He's the local boy and really wanted to get that winningest Integra ever up on the podium at least.
Exactly. Well, and you can see just the different attitude between those 2 cars right now. You watch Ira, just absolute precision, and then you see Auger, and he is doing that. He is just throwing the car around, trying to chew his way back into it here.
With the namesake, yeah.
I know, yeah.
Ira, though,
been fighting that all race long. You know that, don't you?
It's a personal best first sector, though, for Ira here on lap 18 of 20. That's what we're talking about. The tire life of the front-wheel drive cars being lighter is actually not bad. Been pretty impressed with Danny Stain right here on screen, and then Craig McAfee also running in the 2nd spot. They've kept their cars underneath them. Smart races from all these guys.
Absolutely, and Danny Stain picks up the white flag. 1 lap to go for him to perhaps earn a big championship here. Danny is an extremely accomplished driver, and I got to make sure on my stats here, but I'm not sure. He's certainly had podiums at the Runoffs. I don't know he's ever stepped onto the top step of the box, so this could be a very special one for him. Auger doing everything he can here to try and come up on Ira at this stage. He just doesn't have enough time left in this race.
I don't think so, yeah. He's going to need Ira to make a mistake, and that would be a big shocker if he did. But it's definitely been a journey for Danny Stain up at the front. This car, I think this is the 3rd season for that car. It started off, as he says, a combination of unreliable and not competitive, which is the worst combination for a race car you can think of. But they've worked through it. OPM Autosports and Tom Fowler doing a lot of work on that car. The Mazda MZR 2-liter powering that thing. And from paying attention to this class, he's not wrong. It's definitely been a long journey, but
absolutely.
This 3rd season finally looking like he's in place for the top step.
And he has given it a good bit of welly here for the last time through the S's here at Sonoma Raceway. It's a very special piece of real estate. This entire track is, but these S's are legendary. And to know that you're on your last lap through here and you might just be getting a gold medal draped around your neck, that is a special run through as he is coming up now. Just a couple of corners to go, coming up on the back of Trotter. Such is his pace. He's lapped inside the top 10 at this stage. That's an amazing run. And Danny Stain feeds it out of turn 11. 1 more corner to go. Just the little kink of turn 12 and the double checkers fly. Danny Stain, year champion in STL here at the 55th running of SCCA's National Championship Runoffs. Very solid run by Craig McAfee in his flat-out motorsports Mazda to pick up the silver. He just didn't quite have the pace to deal with Stain, but he had the pace over everybody else. And then Cliff Ira is the next one we're going to be keeping an eye out for. Here he comes, and that tells you the margin that those top 2 had on this field. Ira into turn 11 one last time.
Yeah, absolutely. There were no more than 1 to 2 seconds a lap off Danny Stain at the front, but then there's 20 laps, and all of a sudden you're 20, 30 seconds behind, and it's just kind of strung out. But a great drive from Cliff Ira to bring that car home. You saw coming out of 10, not even using the whole track. He's driven a smart race.
He has indeed. And again, Auger, just not enough time to get him. And then the 51 of Ken Kennard will complete your top 5. But Danny Stain, he's going to enjoy this cool down lap because it's a victory lap.
Absolutely. Earlier in the weekend, the Spec Miata race definitely didn't go his way. He struggled all week with that car and with this one, popping that motor early, struggling for years with reliability and speed, and he finally put it all together. Was the class of the field, just kind of drove away and earned this one.
And he absolutely elated with that hand out the window, and why not? He just won a gold medal. We'll hear from him when we come back to Sonoma. The only mistake Danny Stain has made in his run to a national championship in STL is missing pit in on his victory lap, and he suddenly dawned on him like, oh, what am I doing? He stopped, and of course our crack pit team ready for it, over the wall, and as soon as Danny gets that helmet off, Hayward Wagner will be there to talk to him, but I think he was just so pumped on that lap. He was going around and just turning. This is what I've done for 20 laps. I'm going to do. Oh, no.
Yeah, it tells you the focus that was going on in that car. Just keeps it going. He was so excited.
Yep, that's pure adrenaline right there, Hayward.
Danny, they say that rhythm is really important in motorsports. You got into quite a rhythm out there. Didn't want to give it up, did you?
You know how wonderful it is just to be here right now, just soaking in this moment. I've had a few ups and downs, and this is one of those ups.
Danny, we talked before the race. You shared with me 300 races, 100 wins prior to this. This is the first one to come at the SCCA Runoffs. How does it feel to be an SCCA national champion?
It's a bit surreal. Thank you for this moment. This will go down in the record books as one of the ones that we chased. We've chased for 3 years with reliability on this car. We now have the performance and the reliability, and I'm surrounded by the most amazing people. You know, Tom Fowler at OPM and his entire crew, they're amazing. Sam Nelson, who built this engine, it's obviously pretty quick, but it's also now finally reliable. My friends at G-Lock for the phenomenal brakes. They just stopped this car. It's almost 2,800 pounds. It's way over heavy, but those brakes are tremendous. And of course, I've got to thank Ocean Machinery for letting me come and play this week instead of working. And it's pretty awesome to be here. I'm thrilled to finally stand on the top step.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You can hear the emotion. You can see the emotion in those eyes for sure. This is big.
Yeah, reflective tone there for Danny. He knows how long and how hard they've worked, but there's the rundown in STL.
There it is, Craig McAfee, a great run to second. Ira hanging on over Auger for third, then Kennard in the fifth spot. And you take a look down to the top 10, and great battling in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. I mean, just some fabulous racing. But the story was just the speed up front. And Craig Mahaffey was fast, and it was fast enough to get him a silver medal, Hayward.
Fast, but not quite fast enough today, Craig. How was your race?
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. You know, Danny did a heck of a job out there, really had the pace. We tried a little different tire strategy than him. So one of those things that we, just weren't able to execute on. But, I mean, the tires were consistent. Huge thank you to Hoosier Tire for providing such a great, consistent tire, both the Autocross and the R7s. Mazda Motorsport helped us out so much this weekend. Tom Long, additionally, just being able to have him as a driver coach and help us get the setup right and teach me this track first time on it. It's been real great. So happy with what we got, but maybe we'll get Danny next year.
Congratulations on the silver.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
We're going to step right over to Cliff Ira. Cliff ended up where you started, third, a silver, or bronze medal, sorry, but another podium at the Runoffs.
Another podium at the Runoffs. It's a good feeling out at what an amazing racetrack. And just sorry we didn't have anything for the Mazdas today. I was pretty loose at the beginning and got on it, got the tires warm, and tried to get going. And they were out of sight.
But there's still the grin, a little bit of fun.
Oh, are you kidding me? That was tons of fun. And what a great track and a great facility. Had a super day. Had a super day.
Well, congratulations on the bronze.
Thank you. Hey, can I just give a shout out to Jesse Prather Motorsports and Joe Smith and all the folks that supported me this week. I really appreciate it.
I was fortunate enough at the party that they have here on Tuesday night. After I got done working a corner, ended up having dinner with Cliff and his wife, and that day he had set the fast time in the session, and he was just talking about this track, and he said, "What a blast it's to be here." He's had a gold, he's had a silver, now he adds his second bronze. 4 times he's been in the medals. Nicely done. But up front, it was all Danny Staine, and we're going to take a look at some of these moments now. This has been some great racing here, obviously close quarters racing, but great racing. But next year, VIR, a very different track.
Absolutely. We've seen this class grow so much in the last 6 years. Not a lot of drivers making the trip out this year for the 20 cars, but we've had 30-plus cars at the Runoffs in the past. Next year, I think this will be fireworks in STL.
And this place is absolutely staggeringly cool, and obviously a technical track. No less a guy than Paul Newman once said, if there's a heaven on earth, it must be VIR. If you can get to it next year, folks, you have got to come out. It's just that cool. That's going to wrap up our coverage presented by Mazda of the Run to the Medals in the STL Super Touring Lite category of the 55th running of SCCA's National Championship Runoffs from an absolutely beautiful Sonoma Raceway. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. As I said, that is going to wrap things up here, so would like to say, certainly for Tom O'Gorman. Tomo, always a pleasure. And for Hayward Wagner and all of our CBS Sports Network crew, I'm Greg Creamer in association with the Sports Car Club of America. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, your 24-hour home of CBS Sports.